Good evening and welcome to the Joint Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners meeting of March 31st, 2026. I am Briggs Simmons, the Planning and Zoning Chair. Prior to this meeting, announcements were posted, notices were sent to all board members, commissioners, staff, interested parties, and applicants to participate in this meeting. I will now turn the meeting over to Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones to introduce and confirm the president of our commissioners. Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. First of all, Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to come out of recess? Do we have a motion to come out of recess?
So moved.
Do we have a second to come out of recess?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of coming out of recess, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries. Good evening. I'm Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones, the chairwoman of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, and I will certainly just move to my right and allow each one of our commissioners to introduce themselves, and also I'll yield the floor to you, Vice Chair. Just introduce yourself.
Mark Alcaraz, District 4 Commissioner and Vice Chair, present.
Commissioner Mitchell, District 1.
Commissioner Whitney Kenner Jones, District 2.
Commissioner Martin Raxton, District 3.
All right, we have a quorum, and I yield the floor back to you,
Thank you very
Chairman.
much, Madam Chairman. Also present, we have members of the Planning and Zoning Board. And before I introduce the members, I'd like to welcome our new member, Larry Tooney. He is taking over for District 3 representative. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you.
Tonight, we have Frank Payne, our Vice Chair.
Present.
Brandon Penniman, District 1, is excused tonight. Oric Corey, District 2.
Present.
Melissa Polk, District 4.
Present.
And Larry Tooney, District 3. And Dr. Chris Small, Douglas County School System Representative.
Present.
Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. Allison Duncan, our Planning and Zoning Manager, will now introduce the county staff and Planning and Zoning staff present in the meeting. Ms. Duncan.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have with us our Chief of Staff, Tiffany Stewart-Stanley. We have our Deputy Director of Development Services, Travis McDonald. We have our Director of Traffic Operations, Bruce Mercer. We have a representative from our County Legal Department, Mary Minter. We have our Zoning Administrator, Austin Cronin. We have our County Planner, Melody Glenn. And we have our Planning and Zoning Board Clerk, Johanna Womack. And as always, we couldn't do this without our Sheriff's deputies and our Communications Department as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is a reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning, and that is the applicant, agent, or property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after the Board of Commissioners grant an approval. As far as tonight's procedure goes, I will conduct the public hearings. Planning and zoning staff will introduce each application, followed by a full presentation on that application. After that, the applicant or the applicant's representative and members of the public in favor of an application will be able to present their information. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak for a total allocated time of 15 minutes to speak on behalf of an application. Members of the public in opposition to an application will also be able to present their information. They will also have 2 minutes per person and an allocated time of 15 minutes to present their information in opposition. After the opposition completes their input or the time has elapsed, public hearing will be officially closed. At that point, if the staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board will then ask the applicant for points of clarification. And this is not a time for the applicant to re-present their case. Following that, Planning and Zoning Board will entertain a motion. Our first agenda item tonight will be the approval of the minutes of the February 16th, 2026 called meeting and the March 3rd, 2026 regular Joint Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting. After reviewing the minutes, Planning and Zoning Board members, do we have any comments, changes, or questions to the minutes? If none, do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
This is Frank Payne. I recommend approval to the minutes from the February 16th, 2026 special called meeting and approval of the minutes for the March 3rd, 2026 meeting.
Or Curry, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of February 16th and March the 3rd, 2026, please signify by raising your hands. Thank you very much. Madam Chairman, the minutes of the February 6, 2026 call meeting and the March the 3rd, 2026 regular joint planning and Board of Commissioners meeting come to you with a motion for approval unanimously.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the February 16, 2026 special call meeting minutes, and also you had an opportunity to review the minutes from the March 3rd Planning and Zoning meeting. And at this time, do we have a motion to approve? First of all, are there any additions, revisions, or edits that need to be made? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote with no opposition, and I return the floor back to you, yield the floor back to you, Chairman
Thank you,
Simmons.
Madam Chairman. At this point in time, I believe Ms. Duncan has a request to modify the agenda.
I do, sir. If you will bear with me, I'm trying to get my screen to present. Okay, let's try this one more time. All right, here we go. So in terms of the order of the cases tonight, I have one announcement for the benefit of the group. That is the Foxfield Douglas LLC has been withdrawn. So anybody here for the application Z 2026-22 for Foxfield Douglas LLC, that has been withdrawn. There is no pending zoning action on that property. The other thing that I would request is that we move application Z 2026-25 for Meadow Hill LLC to the top of the hearing order tonight, in order to allow for folks who have come to speak in regard to that to have their moment to address the Board of Commissioners. So if there is no opposition to that, we would ask for a motion to move Z 2026-25 to the top of the order of the cases tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. Planning and zoning, do I have a motion on moving Z 2026-25?
This is Melissa Polk. I approve a request and permission to move agenda item Z 2026-25 to the beginning of the agenda.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Or Curry, second.
Thank you very much. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to move Z 2026-25 to the top of the agenda, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chairman, Z 2026-25 motion to move to the top of the agenda comes to you with a unanimous recommendation.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to move Z 2026-25 to the top of the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion to accept the agenda with the modification of moving Z 2026-25 to the top of the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote with no opposition, and the motion carries. I yield the floor back to you, Chairman
Thank you,
Simmons.
Madam Chairman. Who's going to have the presentation on this?
Yes, sir.
Cronin.
Good evening, boards. So our first item is Z 2026-25. This is a request for a rezoning from residential agricultural to PRD, the planned residential development for a 119-lot residential subdivision. The lot is 50 acres. This is in Commission District Number 1. The property is bisected by a creek and has a power line easement. You'll see an aerial in just a second. The property also has a second creek that meanders along. The topography generally follows the meanderings of the creeks and varies. And the property is proposed to be served by sewer, and we have the Water Sewer Authority here tonight if you have questions about the sewer. And a lift station is proposed to suit the installation of the sewer. The applicant's proposing 119 lots of various sizes. You'll see the different lots in just 1 second. We've taken a look at the relevant code sections. There are 3 lot types that we'll see in just a second. There's a 20,000 square foot lot, and there are 4 of those. 15,000 square foot lots, and there are 72. 6,000 square foot lots, and there are 43. There are 3 distinct sections. So the part at the front where the 20,000 square foot lots are located, and generally those terminate at the crossing of the creek. The segment between the creek and the power line easement is a distinct segment, and the segment subsequent to the power line easement as you traverse north at the very north of the property. The applicant has made an effort to both complement the existing segments with the proposed diversity of lot sizes and make compatible those lot sizes with existing development to the east. Lots 2 and 3 at the entrance of Maroney Mill Road and prior to the crossing of the creek don't necessarily provide for the consistent estate density lots, 1 acre or greater, feel that's common along Maroney Mill Road. These may be best incorporated as accessory dwelling units to lots 1 and 119 to provide for the same density with the flexibility provided under the PRD. and allow for a better appreciable difference in the lot sizes. It's unclear the purpose of the request for PRD absent commensurate product type that would modify the merit the distinction of the zoning districts. And the applicants derive much of their overall development standards from the Unified Development Code. Staff's recommending, we've taken a look at the zoning criteria. It's currently zoned residential agricultural. Here's an aerial. You can see the 3 distinct sections. The power line easement traverses through the east and west. This is the overall site plan. It's oriented in such a way to fit, but staff's recommending approval with conditions based upon the following findings. Number 1, the use will not modify the comprehensive plan. Number 2, the use will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Unified Development Code. Number 3, the use will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. Staff's recommending the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall install perimeter fencing located interior to the site along the 50-foot perimeter buffer as required under Article 4, Division 1, Section 4.09 of the Unified Development Code. The fencing shall be composed of decorative stone or decorative aluminum, or be clad in stone or brick veneer at least 6 feet in height. The fencing and natural buffer shall be provided prior to the issuance of any certificates of occupancy for any single-family detached dwellings. Number 2, the perimeter buffer shown on the site plan shall provide for a minimum of 80% opacity between the site and the adjoining properties. If the buffer is disturbed, any tree units removed shall be planted back so as to provide for a minimum of 80% opacity between the site and the adjoining properties. Number 3, the submitted architectural elevation shall be revised to include 1 window for principal rooms on all facades of the structure. If a room extends to 2 or more sides, a window shall be provided on each side. A focal window shall be provided on at least 25% of all units. Bay windows shall be provided on at least 10% of all units. The remainder 15% shall be arched, round, or triple hung windows. Number 4, masonry shall be provided on all sides of the dwellings. Dwellings shall be constructed with the masonry water table continuing on all sides. If a dwelling exceeds a single story, 2/3 of the front gable shall be clad in masonry, or dwelling shall provide for masonry facade on all ground floor facades. Number 5, every single-family residential lot shall be provided with landscaping around the house consisting of shrubs. Shrubs are to be provided at a rate of 1 shrub for every 4 feet of length of house perimeter or portion thereof. Shrubs must be at least 12 inches tall at the time of planting and be of a species that will normally exceed 2 feet in height at maturity. Number 6, the section of the overall development standards that is titled Landscaping, All Other Lots shall be removed. The applicant shall provide a front landscape strip for each lot at a rate of 2 trees per every 60 feet of road frontage. For all corner lots, if the placement of a tree would conflict with the placement of a driveway, the director shall have the discretion in determination as to the rate of trees appropriate for the lots after demonstration of a hardship has been furnished to the Development Services Department. Shrubbery shall be provided at a rate of 3 shrubs for every 15 feet of road frontage. Final composition and sufficiency of the landscaping shall be at the discretion of the Douglas County Arborist. Number 7, street trees shall line the right-of-way along the non-frontage portions of the site, excluding the power line easement that's present on the property, and be provided at a rate of no less than 1 overstory tree per every 50 linear feet. Number 8, minor modifications require review and approval by the Development Review Committee in the event of conflict or disagreement of interpretation. The Director of Development Services shall have discretion to determine if the modification would require re-review before the Board of Commissioners for modifications to the overall development standards or overall development plan. A reduction in the number of lots below 119 shall not require re-review before the Board of Commissioners. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Cronin. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, you'll have 2 minutes per person for an allocated time of 15 minutes.
Evening, everyone. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49. I'm here with the property owner, Shane and Laura Martin. Owned that property for 25 years, left the county recently. They put it on the market for sale. Connor Tharp, who is the developer builder, is here, and with Paul Zakas. The history of this is interesting. My file was opened in November of 2024. The original plan was 145 lots. It then morphed into 195 lots. But now, with one exit only on Maroney Mill, it's 119 lots. We've met with the neighbors a number of times, as most recently as last Thursday, some representatives of the neighbors. And as a result of those meetings, we received conditions of zoning that the neighbors have requested. We approve of these with one exception, and the exception deals with the conditions that were prepared by the county, and that deals with the condition that deals with the fencing around the property. The neighbors had asked for a masonry fence around the entire boundary. We have looked at what the county recommended, and it's an aluminum fence with columns of some description. More on that in just a moment. But quickly, one of the requests of the neighbors was that the properties that were part of the larger subdivision that gave access onto Prickett Road was a concern for them because it looked like in the future we might come back and ask for additional lots. Those properties have been sold both to the neighbors who live in the area. We have signed deeds in my file. Those will be delivered as soon as we get the plat book and page numbers. But that gives the property owners, many of whom are here, who were wanting assurances that that would never come back before you. So with that quick 2-minute introduction, if I may introduce Connor Tharp, who is the developer builder. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon, Connor Thorpe, 344 Woodfield Drive. I am with Smith Douglas Homes. We'll be the developer and builder on this project. Really, the only item of concern we have on your staff report is number 3. As it sits today, the home plans that we submitted to the county does not conform with the window requirements here on the page. So if I could ask that we run parallel with our land disturbance permit to get something back in front of the staff and get approval on this. But as it sits today, we don't have anything in our plan lineup that would fit this requirement. So I would ask if we could, as we're going through the permit process, keep submitting different plans to the county to get approval on that. Other than that, we can do pretty much everything on the conditions. We do have our civil engineer looking at the perimeter fencing. We're fine with perimeter fencing around the whole track, but we do have some topo on this property, so we just want to make sure that we can, it's going to look aesthetically pleasing, and we can do what we intend to do around the perimeter. So those are really the 2 main items on that, but any questions I'll be glad to answer.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Tharp. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would state your name and address for the record.
Paul Zakis, 3500 Raintree Court, Douglasville. I'm part of the development team that will help develop this property. We started working on this probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months ago. And like Joe said, we were originally proposing almost 200 lots, and we didn't get a lot of pushback on the number, but Ms. Duncan did not like the design. And after many back and forth with our planning department, our engineers, the builder, and of course the current landowner, we were all in agreement that 119 lots would protect everyone. What's most important here is that what we were proposing are single-family, owner-occupied homes. It's not not apartments, condos, townhomes. It's not a data center, and still licking my wounds from that build-to-rent development that y'all shot me down a few months ago too. So, you know, we have talked, like Joe said, we have talked to the community. I've been in close contact with Judge Caldwell for probably about 6 months on this, and she couldn't be here tonight. She does Bible study on Tuesday and said she would not make it. And I'm kind of glad because she scares me. She's pretty tough. We did have a meeting with the New Horizons group. I believe Commissioner Mitchell was there, the tax commissioner, and I'm not sure, Madam Chair, I think came a little later. I don't think she heard our question and answer session, but we stayed and answered every question that they had asked. Let's see. We actually talked on Tuesday of last week, and she was in favor of the project. She told me that, again, she was at her Bible study. And look, I know there are folks here that are against this, and I can assure you that Mr. Martin has done everything in his power to protect his neighbors of 25 years. I know this because no one goes from 200 lots to 119. He makes a lot more money going from having 200 lots than 119. That's just less money for him. Most of the neighbors on top of that are protected by larger pieces of property. I kind of did some research of the properties that touch this area, and most folks have larger pieces of property. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record in 2 minutes.
All right, Shane Martin, 231 Wilderness Camp Road, White, Georgia. I'm the property owner. I would like to say I appreciate the county working with us on the designs. We did go with more lots and hearing concerns of not only the county but also the neighbors with a second entrance, we elected to listen to everyone and to downsize it to one single entrance for the 119 lots. And I just appreciate the county working with us and getting their feedback, and also appreciate the correspondence that we've had with the neighbors and talking to them. And I know it's a big change, and I want this to be, you know, a very nice subdivision for the county, and just doing the best we can for all the recommendations that you and the neighbors have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay, seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes per person for an allocated time of 15 minutes. If you'd state your name and address for the record, sir.
Hello, my name is Spencer East. I live at 830 Prickett Road, which is on the corner of Maroney Mill and Prickett Road on the western side heading towards Highway 92. First of all, I want to thank you all for hearing our concerns tonight. That means a lot to us. The board has done a great job in hearing our concerns and validating them. So, you know, your hard work has not gone unnoticed by the community. We are concerned about the impact on traffic in this area. Maroney Mill is a dangerous road already as it is. I've lived here since 2022 and have experienced multiple car crashes into my property. And we are concerned that the addition of 119 homes with families, you know, averaging 2 to 3 cars at a minimum, could create a dangerous situation for the public. Also, with the addition of those single-family homes, you have a lot of children. It's not uncommon for school buses to stop right at the entrance of the neighborhood and pick up all those children, and it could create a dangerous situation for them as well. And the property owners that are directly across from the entrance would be the ones most affected by that entrance. And so it's been brought to our consideration that it could create a bad scenario for them as well. Like I said, I've seen quite a few car crashes since I've been there. It seems to me that Maroney Mill is kind of the I-285 of northern Douglas County. A lot of people use it to bypass Highway 92. And that creates a really bad scenario for a lot of us that pull on and off of back streets onto Maroney Mill. People fly through there. And if you have the time, come out there and sit one evening and you'll see it for yourself. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for hearing everything we have to say.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Name and address for the record in 2 minutes, sir.
Yes, sir. You got another Spencer here. My name is Scott Spencer. I live at 769 Bearden Road. Used to live at 773 Bearden Road, but my house burned down, so I had to move in with my mom. So that's where I'm at now. And I just want to encourage the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Commissioners to just remember how this is going to impact the public services. Anytime you add large subdivisions, it impacts the level of service that our county can provide. Both fire, EMS, Sheriff's Department, all that has an impact. I worked for the fire department for 40 plus years, so it's near and dear to my heart. I live adjacent to this on Bearden Road, and kudos to Shane for trying to work everything out with the neighbors. You know, change is something nobody particularly wants, but our fire department here does a phenomenal job with limited staffing and resources that they have. I am concerned a little bit about the smaller lot sizes, them being able to get their trucks in, especially if the neighbors were to have a party or something, there may be on-street parking. That would need to be addressed somewhere, I would think, in your deliberations. But again, thank y'all for taking the time to listen to us, and we appreciate everything y'all are doing.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer, for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Name and address in 2 minutes.
Okay. My name is Cindy Pratt. This is y'all's paperwork, so it's not going to be my speech. My name is Cindy Pratt Davis, and I live on 4685 Maroney Mill Road, directly across where the entrance will be. I just want to thank you for letting me speak and voice my concerns. My name is Cindy Pratt, and I'm a retired nurse practitioner. I live on Maroney Mill Road, and I've spent my career in Douglas County. I'm here to speak in opposition because we're having so much development. The broader issue is the growth without the infrastructure to protect us. And I'm concerned about the health, both figuratively and literally, in this county. We know that our responders are great, but we are stretched. We've got a 20 to 25% vacancy rate. We are down 79 sheriffs from what I checked yesterday. Surrounding counties like Gwinnett, DeKalb, Fulton, Cobb, all have impact fees. When a builder comes in from another county, they pay a fee for each home that they build. These builders are coming in here not because of growth, not because we're prepared, but because we're cheap. And because the builders come to our house, they eat at our table, they devour it, and then leave us, the taxpayers, and the citizens with the consequences. The burden they leave is shifted to us, our emergency services, and our children. I've seen these consequences firsthand. In 2023, my 86-year-old father had pneumonia. We found him very, very ill. Called 911. Basic EMTs responded. They were great, but they didn't have advanced EMTs available because they were backed up in another emergency at the hospital. They had told us that they didn't have transport. We'd have to wait 2 hours. 2 hours is a long time when you've got someone that's critical. I ran into that in my office when I was practicing as a nurse practitioner. We had an actual patient having cardiac symptoms, a 50-year-old woman. I called 911. We were in the ambulance, within a block of the hospital. Okay. And they told us the same thing.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Name and address, and in 2 minutes, please.
Yes, my name is Linda McDaniel. I'm at 700 Prickett Road. And my concern specifically is in regards to the wildlife in this area, because this area and the bordering neighbors have wooded lots. And there is a lot of wildlife that is there. So just thinking about this impact of this subdivision, what's going to happen to this wildlife and the fragmentation to this environment. My second concern is about the creek. The creek that bisects the land, specifically it flows through my land, and I am currently seeing effects of the creek and the erosion that is occurring there. So when you add on 119 homes in this new infrastructure, what impact is that going to have on the creek? So I think about potential overflooding. All right, and then what is that going to do with the floodplain that runs in this area? Then it's like, if I don't have an issue with overflooding, with the 3 retention ponds and the lift station that's there, what is the potential of drying up the creek? And so thinking about those potential impacts there. So, all these things are assumptions, but are there any studies that have been done to see what impact that it can have on the wildlife and the creek? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Daniel. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Name and address in 2 minutes.
Stacy Bradshaw, 862 Gresham Road at the corner of Prickett. I want to thank you all for your time this evening. We really do appreciate it. We were originally asking to postpone the vote until the 11-plus acre out parcel was sold. It appears that we've all been surprised with that deed that just was announced. What we'd like to see now is that be finalized before the vote There's been no exchange of money, there's no written contract, and the deed is not recorded, just for a matter of record. We're asking that the rental cap be more restricted than the county's current 10% limit because the proposed subdivision will have a much higher density than the surrounding area. The proposed higher density, coupled with the rental property, significantly increases the risk and threat of crime to the community. An exceeded rental cap would lead to the county only responding to complaints after they already exist. We suggest a proactive measure where the rental cap would be included in the HOA's CC&Rs so that future buyers will be informed of the rental limit prior to closing via the attorney-ordered closing letter. Even though on-road parking will be prohibited, it is likely that parking spilling over to the street will occur. The developer and a builder have a duty to plan accordingly. The width of the paved roads should be a minimum of 35 feet to minimize congestion and crime. Additionally, this would lessen the risk of injury to pedestrians and ensure passage is not blocked, especially for emergency services. We agree with most of the planning and zoning's recommendations included in Supplement A. We agree with the perimeter fencing requirement, the perimeter buffer requirement. However, we're asking for clarification as to what future modifications would require re-review and approval by the Douglas County Development Review Committee. We believe that re-review affords the most transparent form of communication with the constituents. I thank you again for all of your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Name and address for the record in 2 minutes.
I'll do my best. Please just cut me off. Good evening, Madam Chair. It's good to see you again. Commissioners, thank you for your time. Just to kind of...
did you give your name and
Oh,
address?
I'm sorry, I did not. My name, I thought y'all just knew who I was.
Well,
my name is Melody Wilcox.
The record does not
Pratt.
know who you are.
2280 Pine Drive, Douglasville, Georgia. And anyhow, I wanted to go down and say, according to New Home Sources, according to New Home Source, there are currently around 282 new construction communities in this county. And those developing have made promises that were not kept. I encourage everybody who has developers, I don't trust any of them at this point. I have seen streams destroyed, I've seen ponds destroyed, I've seen neighborhoods destroyed, just because what they promise to do, they don't do. And you know what? Nobody holds them accountable, and that's what's so frustrating. Also, when you look at this, we're supposed to be green people. And the only green I see coming out a lot of times is just the dollar bill, because the trees are gone, the open fields are gone, the wildlife is really struggling for places to go. And we just continue to build in this willy-nilly kind of crazy topsy-turvy way, and we aren't ready for it. The infrastructure's not ready to handle it. Emergency services can't handle it. The schools can't handle it. And I've heard every excuse in the book, and when I've said it before, I've seen smiles and smirks too. But we're just not ready to handle what's coming in. And believe me, this gentleman has every right to sell his property. I'm the first one to tell you that. He has that right. However, where does that right draw the line when it impacts an entire community? You know, we can sell our property and build hundreds of homes on it, but I can't put a shed in my front yard because it might disturb the neighbors or ruin the aesthetics of the neighborhood. Something's wrong here. We need to slow down, back up. I have no delusions of where this county's going, but we need to slow down and catch up before we continue to build and build and build. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in opposition. At this point in time, Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of staff or of the applicant?
This is Melissa Polk. I actually have a question. I'm not real sure if it would be considered staff or applicant, but I do have a question in regard to the sewer for this property.
I would defer to Water Sewer Authority.
Perfect, yes, thank you. Hello.
Good evening, Brian Keel representing the Water and Sewer Authority.
Thank you, Brian, for being here. My question for you in regard to this property, What are the requirements in regard to sewer, what are the requirements for this property in regard to like a sewer line or sewer hookup type thing? Can you explain that to us, for we are aware of that?
Absolutely. So, given the property's proximity to existing available sewer, we will require them to connect to that sewer. Doing so will require that they build a pumping station. They've got a couple of options of locations where they can connect. The closest available sewer is in the Bearden Landing subdivision, immediately east of the proposed development. We also have a lift station on Maroney Mill Road, a little bit farther away, that they could connect to as well. So they've got a couple of options.
Okay. And again, you stated this is a requirement for this property.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And has that been voiced to the owner of the property and the builders and engineers, like they're aware of this requirement?
We have had that conversation with the engineer.
Perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Thank you. You guys have any other questions for Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for?
Oh, no.
Okay, Brian, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant or staff?
Yes, I do. I'd like to speak with the applicant, please. Hi, thank you. So hearing that you all have had this conversation, where is your position with that and your understanding of the requirement? And are you ready to move forward in that requirement? So what's the plan with that?
Yes, ma'am. So we'll submit, assuming we get zoning, we'll submit full civil plans to the county. So Michael Forlaw is our civil on this with Southeast Civil Group. So he's heading up all the connections and the lift station and where that's going. So we kind of put trust in him to make sure that all the capacity issues or anything like that are met with. So, but we are prepared, I guess to your question, to go ahead and submit full CDs, assuming we get zoning approval.
And the property that he had mentioned, the other community that he had mentioned, that where you would have to start your connections with, is that you've had a conversation with those property owners as well?
No, ma'am. Unless Mr. Forlaw has, I have not.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
And do you have anticipation of plans of doing that, reaching out and having that conversation, what that means for them
If that's the
and y'all's
direction we have to
relationship?
go, we'd reach out to him. Yes, ma'am.
Understand.
Yes, ma'am.
I do not have any further questions for the applicant unless the board does.
Okay. Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, I'd like to talk to, not with the DOT regarding traffic.
Hey, good evening.
There have been some concerns by the residents pertaining to traffic in that area, increase in traffic. Your traffic studies, have you, can you give any response to that?
Yes. The number of what we call trips, visits, in and out of a given entrance for this size development will be approximately 1,139 daily trips. Okay, that equates to 89 in the morning and 121 in the PM peak hours. Now, to give you a comparison of how much volume is on Maroney Mill Road, on an average, it's about 4,400 cars a day. Comparing that to Highway 92, it's 26,000 a day. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what type of volume it's going to create and what kind of volume is actually on Maroney Mill Road itself.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question for Fire and Rescue or Fire. Anybody here represent? Chief?
Chief's in the back.
Chief's back there.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, the question is, some of the residents had some concerns about, emergency response in that area being medical, if anything happens, or do they have a fire station out there, or is it something that proximity for them to get assistance if they need it? Because now you're gonna have another 119 prospective homes that's gonna be put out there in that area, which is gonna probably require, some more firemen or some more services out in that area.
So we do have two stations in
somewhat of the vicinity within like 3 miles of the area. However, additional homes means additional, call value. So that's what we look at also.
Okay. So that's something that's going to have to be looked at later on about, I know some of the people had brought up that you are, the county is going through the amount of firefighters that they need or EMTs that they need for that area. It's I think one of the ladies talked about that we don't have the adequate amount or we're down.
Well, I mean, nationwide, the fire departments nationwide are short of staff. I mean, we're no different than anyone else. But once again, we're always going to respond, but, additional homes, additional call volume, whether you're talking fire or medical.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
I have a question for the staff.
Yes, sir.
Now, I know that the developer talked about something about the building window or something that needs to be changed, and they're willing to work with you on that. Could you kind of explain that? What was the change between what it was for what they thought they need to have until now there was a change to that?
Yes, sir. The applicant submitted a set of elevations as a part of their overall development standards. Typically, their overall development standards bind them if they're approved. So staff's introducing some conditions to modify those elevations, and typically those elevations aren't required until they get to the final plat stage, so that means they'll have to go through engineering and preliminary plat stage first. So they'll have to go through DRC and address all the different technical aspects of it, and then at the end is when they do their architectural pattern book review. So we would ensure that those conditions are complied with at that stage. So it gives them a little bit of time to get through the process.
Okay. All right, that's all I have at this time.
Anything else, Planning and Zoning? Madam Chairman, we're through with our questions. I'll put it over to the Board of Commissioners for questions you folks may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman. Commissioner Mitchell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a couple of questions. I don't know, we'll start with, I don't know, would this be staff? Can you talk a little bit more about the fencing and the buffer, the natural buffer and all that good stuff?
Yes, sir. So we heard from the citizens that generally perimeter fencing is preferred, and that's something that can mitigate off-site impacts and especially mediate like view sheds from different properties. So we're proposing a condition to install perimeter fencing interior to the site along the buffer, and the buffer is shown better here. Let me see if I can get the laser. It's kind of the south portion of the property where it's kind of grayed out in the purple, and on the blue and to the north it's more gray. But that's the perimeter buffer. When you have a PRD district, you have to provide 50 feet from existing single-family developments. So that's where the perimeter fencing is proposed to be located.
Got it. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this going around this property in its entirety, even dealing with the topo? You just that could get kind of interesting trying to do that, though, would it not? Or
Yes, sir. Well, it wouldn't go in the power easement, the power line easement, and then on that section in the bottom right of the screen where there's the stream and the buffers, it wouldn't go in that section either, because that's not where they're proposing the buffer. But presumably they would have to grade as they need to and do retaining walls and all those things.
and how we capture knowing, so if this passes or whatever, how would they know kind of how would that work? Or who would be the police buffer patrol? Who would
Yes,
take?
sir. We would have the building inspectors go out when they come for their certificates of occupancy, when they're ready. We would have the building inspectors check for that at the time.
Got it. So along the way, that'll be, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's a type of fencing I think I was hearing that was requested, but on the planning and zoning side, that there is a type that's approvable, but then there's the citizens on the other end saying they want brick, stone, and all this other stuff.
Yes, sir. We're proposing decorative stone or decorative aluminum, or be clad in stone or brick veneer at least 6 feet in height. So giving them a little bit of option there. If y'all feel one is more appropriate, we can modify the conditions.
Right, and I guess I would probably say to the developers, how do they feel? Is it in line, kind of?
I did, do you mind if I go back to the site plan real quick? Right here. So on the site plan too, well, I was kind of getting at earlier, the bottom right-hand corner, which would be your north, is that northeast corner? The topo's pretty severe right here, so.
Right.
We have not done enough homework on grading plans and full civil design to know how a perimeter fence would work in this corner down here, because
Right.
it's, I mean, it's very, very.
It drops raw.
Rough right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
okay.
sir. So we would ask, once we submit the LDP set, the county's got to approve it anyway, but we'd like to show where we can and can't do the fencing around the perimeter on that set. And like you said, we can't cross the creek with it.
Right.
And I did want to add, the buffer, we want to leave as many trees as we can around the buffer, the natural trees, the timber on the site. So, to do the perimeter fencing, we would have to grade that area and clear those trees out. So it's kind of a win-lose, if you will, on that.
And staff, how would we kind of, if this passes, but, how would that work?
So we've proposed the condition about opacity, which is condition number 2, where the perimeter buffer has to provide at least 80% opacity. And so if they disturb that buffer, they'd have to plant back to provide that 80% opacity. Of course, that would be newer trees, which would take time to grow up.
Right.
But that would be the remedy, to plant back, yes, sir.
Okay, and stay there while you're there, though.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so are there sidewalks within this plan, or they're not sidewalks, or?
I'd have to defer to DOT, actually,
Okay.
for their inventory of that.
I'll take. Because I just don't recall hearing about anything of that caliber, but.
Yeah, as far as sidewalks within?
Yes.
Okay. Every proposed street within the development and along the property frontage of Maroney Mill will require sidewalks on both sides of the road.
Oh, okay, interesting, okay, all right, thank you for that. And this one for Joe, I think I heard. So Joe, you talked about these 2 deeds that you had
Yes.
that sold off these 2 pieces of properties, and I don't,
Yes, sir.
well, it's not up there now, but kind of help me to understand that and understand kind of where you are and when the recording and/or should this be a part of this condition? Are you making this a part of this, the saying these are done, sold, and just haven't been recorded? You haven't had time to get to the courthouse, I guess.
At the meeting on Thursday at my office, coincidentally, there was a discussion about ensuring that the property transfers took place because of the concern that I mentioned earlier about whether or not Shane would come back and try to do an end run on what the county approved. So we asked for a survey to be prepared of each parcel. There's 4 acres plus about 7 or 8 acres. I've got the deeds right here. But those plats have been submitted to P&Z for approval, and we don't have the plat book and page number yet. But I've got the deeds that were signed and photocopied, and I can put them in the record right at this moment. Now, Mr. Ackerman is buying one parcel, and Mr. Kuchar is buying the other parcel. When I talked to David, he said he's ready to write the check, and we'll have the deeds ready to record as soon as we get the plat book and page number. And I can put them into the record right now, Mr. Commissioner.
And just, I guess staff would probably have to say kind of how, or legal, how does that work, to make it a part of, if by chance this move in any direction of any sort of passing of some sort, to reassure that is what's going to happen.
Yeah. As a condition of the zoning, it would be that these deeds have to be recorded. No land disturbance permit would ever issue unless the deeds are recorded. And I think we'll have the plat book and page number. Allison talked about that.
Okay, yes.
So if I understand the question correctly, just to clarify, if you're looking at the site plan, the only thing you're being asked to zone is what has a color.
Correct.
Right, so I think in terms of protection, I totally understand where the neighbors are coming from. It was absolutely the recommendation of staff that y'all need to kind of button up this issue that you're doing with selling these properties to the neighbors, right? Don't let that hang out there. But I would say you are only being asked for zoning approval on what's in the color. So what is not colored, which includes the larger tracts that we're talking about, is not the subject of the zoning hearing whatsoever.
So we can't make this a condition of of the two.
You can certainly make it a condition, of approval. I would, my opinion only, that probably gets a little bit above and beyond what we have the authority to control.
Correct.
Right?
Understood.
But I would say that in terms of doing an end around of the counting or the zoning or anything like that, right, we're looking at basically just what, is on this plan. Unless, would you disagree with that or anything?
I don't disagree at all. We're
Yeah.
willing to stipulate that we'll sign the, well, deeds are signed, we'll record them, we have the plat book and page number, and I'll turn it over to Allison if she will accept it.
I think we're good to just go with the zoning right now, if the board is
Understood.
comfortable with that. We do have the plat, we have reviewed it, it has to go to DRC for all kind of final signatures. At that point, it passes back to the surveyor and they
I
get it
understand.
recorded, so.
I understand. Just one last thing while you're there. So the fire and EMS and
Yeah, you saw
getting,
Chief-
no, I know, he ran off and left, man. But, so, in the build out, to reassure that fire and EMS can get in the subdivision, we build as such. We don't build where a fire truck or EMS couldn't get into the subdivision so are we building this with the streets and sidewalks wide enough to end,
Do you want to address that? Do you want, I would defer to DOT on that.
Okay.
My answer is going to be yes, but the
Right.
fire marshal sits on the development review committee. He is one of the required sign-offs, and I would let Bruce address
Right.
the build-out of the streets.
Okay. Because I'm almost confident that I know that we do, but I just want to kind of hear it from the experts.
Yes, the minimum pavement width for a subdivision street will be 24 foot wide, which is what we build everywhere. The one thing we have taken in consideration, anytime you increase the width beyond the asphalt beyond 24, or you get into 30, that increases speeding. I heard something about on-street parking. There's no on-street parking. There's no restriction of on-street parking in the code.
Right.
So to go back to the original question, a 24-foot wide asphalt paved surface is a standard minimum road width.
For sure. And this build out would be as such. I don't know if
That
that's
is correct.
Okay.
That will be required.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And I guess I had one other question, but I have a senior moment here. Oh, is this going to be an HOA community?
Yes, sir. So we'll have covenants and restrictions and an active HOA, which actually parking on the road will be, you'll get fined from our HOA docs, our covenants, if, parking on the road is there. Yes, sir.
And that's going to be a part of the covenants?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did want to just clarify.
Okay.
On our house plans on the windows, as it currently sits today, we do not have product just on number 3 that fits what the staff is asking for. And we are going to go back to the drawing board to try to get us close to something where we can come to an agreement on that. But as it sits today, we cannot adhere to that number 3 item regarding the windows.
And what is that? I'm a little confused. I don't know if maybe I'm the only guy. I'm trying to understand with the window. Okay.
We buy a lot of our windows in advance. So bay windows really was something done in the past, a long time ago.
Okay.
And then the focal windows, we just, as a home builder, we don't have that in our library to do. And I wish I had some more detail for you about how that's different from a regular house down the road, but in our plan library, we just don't have it to date.
I'm just a little still confused, but
No,
I mean, maybe the other guys got it, but I still don't quite, Okay. The expert just gave it to me, gave me the answer. So we're good. Thank you. Okay, so outside of that, I may have a few other questions, but, and it may have been already asked. With the 9 conditions that was being asked, there was, I think, if I heard you correctly, there's one that you kind of have in question. But outside of that, those conditions, right, number 3 is, that's
Correct,
the one
number
that's in
3 is
question.
only one. Yes, sir.
That's in question. But outside of that, the conditions, 8 or 9 of them, are
Correct.
Are
Yes,
all
sir.
good.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
And we'll submit for the perimeter fencing, as long as the county will work with us on the topo where we could actually put the fencing on the LDP set.
Right.
To show where it'd
Right.
go. Yes, sir. But other than that, just number 3, you're right.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you very much. All right, outside of that, I'll yield, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Raxton, you have the
right.
floor.
Thank you. All right, this is for DOT. All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So one of the concerns we heard from the residents is that there is car crashes and a high degree of car crashes, even onto their properties. So I just want to get an idea of what can be done to reduce even the car crashes, especially if we're looking to now increase the number of units, introducing additional cars into a potentially new development.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the Moroni Mill carries about 4,400 cars a day. I did a quick snapshot of accidents with between Pritchett Mill or Pritchett Road and Huey Road, which are kind of bordering the property on either side. And in a 2-year history, I found only 3 accidents within the last 2 years. One of those was a deer hit, one was a side swipe, and one was a rollover at the top of the hill. So if you expand back to 5 years, we gathered 8 accidents. Now, I'm looking at the area for the first half mile, 3/4 of a mile on each side of the proposed entrance. What happens a mile or 2 east or west really kind of doesn't go along with what this property is trying to prevent.
Okay, and I'm hearing some odds that I'm not sure that that is accepted or agreed to with what I'm just hearing in the audience, just from the moans there. But thank you for providing that information and that documentation and doing that review. Is there anything from a condition standpoint that could be done to maybe help slow down traffic or the speeding? Just thinking of introducing additional cars into potentially a new development. Is there any thoughts or anything that the DRC may propose?
Typically, when you get into vehicle accidents, you're dealing with speed. And DOT, that's not a DOT governed, that's an enforcement when we get into Sheriff's Department there. I've traveled down Moroni Mill Road many times. I think everybody that's in attendance, either supporting or against, has traveled the same way and probably hasn't had an accident. It has to do with speeding and driver control and driver awareness. It's a 45-mile-an-hour road. It's a minor arterial roadway. It's a larger road in the county, but to orchestrate something to try to alter the speed or check the speed, I'm not aware of anything right now. Again, if you ran just numbers, and I know I'm talking just a small snapshot that I took because I wanted to address the parcel we're talking about. If you look at an overall number of 4,400 cars a day for 2 years, for 3 accidents, the numbers are rather small.
Okay.
Again, that's a snapshot near the frontage of the property.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. Okay, thank you, appreciate that insight, thank you so much. All right, the next one is for staff. So a question, just want to see, is this development located in a floodplain? I thought I heard that it was, and if so, is that going to increase insurance costs, homeowners insurance?
Okay, well, I would probably defer to Travis and his discussion of the floodplain, but the property does have a little bit, so that's that kind of light blue outline in the northeast and kind of the northwest section as it meanders. It kind of follows the creek, but not too much present on this property.
Yes, so as Austin said, there are small portions of floodplain on the property. I'm sorry, what are your other parts of your question?
Well, I'm just wondering about the insurance, and, if it's being developed in the floodplain, will that increase insurance, and then, of course, that price gets passed on to the home buyers?
So there are stormwater controls that WSA will regulate as far as the amount of runoff that does get to the creeks from the developed property. That is supposed to keep the floodplain relatively the same before and after. So as long as the floodplain stays the same over time, it should not, like one property that doesn't affect the insurance rates of the next property over. Especially here, it looks like the floodplain is fairly narrow. That's usually because the topo's steep. So as the water rises, the water doesn't really have room to spread out.
Right.
So on something like this, I would not expect the floodplain to change significantly.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I think
Yeah,
Brian.
if apparently Brian has something to add.
All right, Brian, go right ahead.
I'll just add, Travis is exactly correct, and I'll just add to that, the site plan that was submitted with the packet does not show the construction of any homes proposed within the footprint of the floodplain.
Okay.
So insurance would not be affected.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. Greatly appreciate that. And then the last question for staff, and I heard something in regards to imposing or having a 10% rental cap. And I just wanted to clarify that and get a little bit more granular on what does that mean? Is that something that's enforceable, or what does that look like?
Yes, so we have a 10% maximum for the developer as they develop these sites that only, at most, 10% of the lots can be set aside for rental. We haven't heard from the applicants that that's their intent, to set aside a certain percentage for rental. We do check the covenants to see if there's any clause related to rental, how that's treated, et cetera. But that really only extends to the developer as they develop the property and maintain those properties if they decide that they're going to have a property management company take over, or if they're going to sell the lots off as fee simple lots.
Okay, thank you. So maybe if you could just expound on that and just to give us some assurance of what you're looking at, what is the plan there from a rental perspective?
Yes, sir. In most of our neighborhoods in the state, we'll have a 10% rental cap on the neighborhood, and we do hire out a third party once we turn over the HOA to the homeowners, but we'll deficit fund the whole HOA until we get down to the finish line of our last home closing. And then that third party HOA company that takes over will enforce that no more than 10% of the neighborhood can be rental.
Okay, so you say who would take over that management firm?
It's a third party management company. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm just wondering, as far as from a longevity standpoint, how long could that potentially, be in force?
Yes, sir. I don't know the exact build-out time on this, but like I said, we'll deficit fund everything, the grass cutting, the common areas, and everything like that until we turn it over to the homeowners.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Madam Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Any other questions forward? Okay. WSA, if you could come back up for just a second. There was some light conversation about the lift station, and there was a question asked, did you speak to the neighbors about the lift station? Is it going to be close? Tell me proximity-wise, how close will it be to those particular residents? Because
Yes, ma'am. So referring back to the site plan here, it's going to be kind of in the back, the northwest corner of the neighborhood, which on this view is the upper right corner. Down by where the stream crosses through the subdivision and crosses out of it. So I don't know the proximity to any of the surrounding neighbors, but it's one of these little call-outs in the upper right corner of the page.
lift stations, can you just talk about some of the challenges or pros and cons of a lift station?
Sure. So a lift station is it's a pumping station to pump sewage. When the topography does not allow sewage to flow downhill through a pipe naturally, we have to pump it. Here in Douglas County, we're blessed with an abundance of topography. That's a lot of up and down hills. So we do have to use lift stations to convey sewage. It's primarily an underground structure. Above ground, you're likely to see a small generator, a control panel, a radio antenna, and that's about it usually.
And odor control.
And odor control, yes, ma'am.
Okay, just want to make sure. I know folks are probably concerned about odor.
Yes, ma'am. As far as, impacts to the neighbors, they're not loud, they don't generate smells.
Okay.
They can be constructed so they're not an eyesore, with vegetation around them screening.
Okay.
They're not uncommon in subdivisions.
All right, thank you. Thank you. On the fencing, if we could go back to that area, I know sometimes I heard that the topo could be challenging in some of the areas in this subdivision. If I could have the developer come up a little bit. Those houses that are close to the floodplain, are you considering retaining walls or anything like that? I sit right up on a floodplain in my subdivision, and I love looking down at all the areas that couldn't be developed, but I noticed a retaining wall is on the side of my house. Can you explain that?
Yes, ma'am. So we won't know exactly yet if we need a retaining wall out there or how big it'll be until we get into the civil design stage of the property. But there very well could be a retaining wall down there on that slope if you're looking at the property on your northeastern portion of the property. And there could be some other smaller ones throughout the property, but once we get into the grading plan a little bit more, y'all will obviously review that and see where they are before you approve it.
Okay, that's all I have
Yes,
about the
ma'am.
retaining wall. I believe that's it. All right, I yield the floor back to you.
Madam Chair.
Okay, wait a minute. Vice Chair, you have a question?
This is for the builder. Can you go back to that, the site plan, please?
Sorry.
What are the size of the lots in the purple? What size are those lots?
The purple lots are 10,000 square feet. Well, the frontage lots are 20,000 square feet coming into the subdivision, and then 10,000 square feet around the perimeter on the back side of the property, and then 8,000 square feet in the orange, kind of in the middle of the property.
Okay. I guess maybe you guys just laid it out to get more capacity in the subdivision is the reason why you changed those lots to, in the orange?
Shane, I may have to revert to Shane, but we, once we went down from the 190, we still were trying to get a number that worked for both of us. So I think that was probably the main reason. Yes, sir.
Okay, because I was just looking at me, because usually when you, sometimes in some subdivisions, you come in and there's consistency in regards to lot sizes.
Throughout the whole thing.
But I just noticed in the horseshoe that those are really packed in. But, okay, I was just wanting to know the lot size. Thank you. I yield
Yes, sir.
back, Madam Chair.
Thank you. If I could have DOT come up for just 1 second. I had a question about Moroni Mills. And then I'll yield the floor back to you once we finish. I'm telling you. I was taking copious notes. Bruce, if you could, are there any enhancements planned for Moroni Mill? I know you said the traffic study reveals 4,400 cars. Is there any way we could put some flashing lights along that corridor, just when you come in, it's yellow lights saying slow it down or something to that effect? I'm not sure if it'll work, but it'll be something to get the driver's attention, the ones to tend to speed. Is it anything we can do to enhance it just further?
I think the most critical area immediately near this particular site is over near Prickett Road. Mm-hmm. There's a vertical and horizontal alignment there. I know in the past we've had some accidents, but we've increased the signage through that area with larger chevron signs. We tightened them up so you could be more aware that you're traveling through a horizontal movement. That is something that we can look at, either adding larger signs, more signs, or even consider something if it's warranted for something that would give a flashing beacon to advise of the severity of the curve.
Right, that curve.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
flashing beacon, something you would consider?
Yes, ma'am. Is that something you would want as part of the
I would
project?
love it to be, because Commissioner Mitchell, in that corner, we was talking about it coming around. Are you okay with a flashing beacon? Just something to, we want to make sure that our citizens, anything that would I want to bring some attention to, number one, the speed limit, And then also that curb, I know it's a deep curb. I traveled Moroni as well. I don't travel often, but I have been on that road. And I did hear no in the back, but you need something.
It would flash 24/7.
And it'd probably be in someone's bedroom.
It would reach someone's bedroom.
Oh, okay, I don't want to, oh, wow.
There's pluses and minuses to that
Yeah.
side of it. Let us do this. Let us take a hard look at the more accidents in the area, maybe a elongated picture. Typical traffic improvement type designs are at least a 2-year minimum, and then that's what I looked at initially. But we've made other improvements in different areas of the county with adding additional, we call them chevrons, that kind of guide you through curves. We've added multiple heights, we've added multiple sizes to get greater impact, and we've seen some improvement there. So I'm not opposed to doing that at all.
Okay.
And that way it's not a continuous flashing item to cause any harm.
Okay. Thank you so much for placing that area on your radar to see what we can do to be creative and 21st century to make sure that there is at least some awareness brought to that curve. I know exactly where everybody's concerned about. Thank you. I yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion. Do I have a motion on Z 2026-25?
This is Frank Payne. I recommend approval of Z 2026-25, a request for rezoning for RA to PRD for a residence subdivision located at Moroni Mill Road, Douglasville 30134. And with the conditions and the findings.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Or Curry, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, I would quickly like to have a discussion. So when we were talking about the conditions that were listed, I believe there was 8 or 9, is that correct? And the builders are saying there's one of them that they can, them are 3. So how can we approve this with those recommendations when the party is saying that they're not going to be able to meet that as of yet or can't attest to that? How does that work?
So I would refer back to condition number 8, where a minor modification, if it's something we can review as a minor modification. For instance, if bay windows don't work out on 25%, but they can propose a focal window, and that's something we can work with them on. We can usually work that out through the Development Review Committee without having to bring it back to the Board of Commissioners, if it's the discretion of the Development Services Director to approve it in that way. So that's one way. We try to work in these conditions for these where they're tied to a site plan or elevations or something to that effect, where if something changes, they don't always have to come back to the Board of Commissioners if it's a very small, minor change, either technical or aesthetic.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
So condition number 8 does add a little wiggle room in there for DRC to make changes based on conversations with the developer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion, Planning and Zoning Board?
Good, okay.
All right, we want to change, we don't need to change the motion. We've got number 8 in there. Okay. All right, at this point in time, I have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Do I have a vote to approve Z 2026-25? Planning and Zoning Board, all in favor say yes. All opposed? That's unanimous, Madam Chairman. Z 2026-25 comes to you with a unanimous recommendation for approval with the conditions.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item Z 2026-25 as stated by Planning and Zoning with the said conditions and findings as stated.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion, Board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. All opposed? We have a 4-1 vote and the motion carries. The opposed, yes, 4-1 vote and Opposed, carried. Okay. All right. Board of Commissioners, okay, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to not approve Z2026-25.
I don't think he said with conditions.
With conditions as provided by staff.
Sorry, just to clarify, if your motion is to deny, we do
Deny.
not need the conditions. So if,
Okay.
is your motion
To
to
deny.
deny the
To
rezoning?
deny,
request?
yes.
Thank you for clarifying that. Then we do not need the conditions as
Okay.
presented by staff.
Commissioner Kenneth Jones looked like you. Are you okay? You look, you thought he said one thing he didn't say. I think we have a problem.
Right, she was
And I was
not
thinking the
clear
same thing too.
that I didn't include the conditions. I said the conditions and findings by planning and zoning.
I didn't hear you.
You didn't hear that? Oh, no, that's what I actually said, with the conditions and findings stated by planning and zoning.
So do we need to call another motion or, okay? We have one on the floor. Do we have, call your motion again, Commissioner Raxton.
Okay. Motion is to deny Z202625 for a request for rezoning from residential architectural to planned residential development.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second to deny. All in favor of denying, please indicate by raising your right hand. Okay. All opposed of the denial, please raise your right hand. Okay, we have a 3-2 vote, and the motion carries, the motion fails, so you're up.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to make another motion on Z2026-25 in the motion of approval with all the said conditions and findings stated by planning and zoning for approval.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board?
And I do apologize for the confusion. I did not hear you say with the conditions the first time and the findings, and I was not going to vote in favor of
Yeah,
approval
I
if the conditions were not included.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. All opposed? We have a 3-2 vote and the motion carries. Okay? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good luck with you on this
Motion
development.
carries for approval. Okay.
Our next agenda item, please. Let's give it about a minute to let everybody leave.
Commissioner, make sure we didn't hear you. Okay.
Okay, we could exit the room as quickly as possible, please. We have other business to take care of. Okay, Ms. Glenn, next item, please.
Thank you. Agenda item S 2026-20. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow short-term rental at 3357 Saddleton Way. The lot size is approximately .73 acres in Commission District 1. There is an existing 1,638 square foot single-family detached home that was built in 1988 in the Country Park subdivision. The applicant is proposing to use the existing home as a short-term rental. Here's the relevant code section. The use must not alter the principal character of the property as a single-family residence. Here's the special use criteria analysis. Here's a zoning map. Here's a site aerial. Staff is recommending approval based on the following findings. The proposed special use permit will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the comprehensive plan. The proposed special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, please please approach the podium. You have 2 minutes per person for an allocated time of 15 minutes. State your name and address for the record.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Roa. That's my property. Me and my wife want to do this. We see this as an opportunity to bring more people to this community. We've been working on this, and we think we don't want to disturb the nature of the neighborhood. We don't want to party. We don't want to allow parties. We don't want to allow parking on the streets. So we want to be very specific with our guests and just allow people to come to our home, in our community, and stay with us just for a few days. We are open to hear anybody who wanna share their concerns, and most concerns are that, from what we heard the last time that we're here, is just parties and streets, and we wanna be respectful to everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you would stand by, we'll probably have some questions. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Again, seeing no one moving, I'll close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the applicant or of staff?
I have a question of the applicant.
If you'd come back to the podium, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the first question I have is, are y'all in the HOA community or?
There's no HOA.
So there's no HOA in the community?
No, sir.
Have you talked to the neighbors to the left, to the right, front, about what you're planning on doing? Because I know the sign was put out there, and did anybody come by and ask you any questions?
The only person we spoke to was a neighbor. He lives at the very entrance of the community. We met here the last time, like 3 weeks ago, and he said he wasn't opposed to it. He wanted to know more about it. And he said, well, this wild community, so I just want to make sure that it's not going to disturb that. And said, no, sir, we're going to require a minimum 2-night stay, which prevents most of the people that wanted to party at homes.
Okay. So are y'all gonna stay there, or you have a separate?
We live there, and we're gonna rent out just a portion of the home.
Okay, so you're gonna rent a portion of the home?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, how's your driveway for parking? How many guests are you planning on taking in at a time when they come to stay? How many guests?
Our plan is to allow a maximum of 4 people. So we have a driveway that can fit 2 cars. One is going to be for the guests, and the other one is going to be for me and my wife.
Okay, all right. I have no further questions.
Hi.
Hi.
Will the individuals who will be renting, will they have access to a kitchen or appliances, or is that in a separate area?
It's going to be a separate area. They're going to have one bathroom. They're not going to have access to the kitchen. We're planning to divide the home with a door, a secure door.
So it'll just be 1 bedroom or 2?
It's going to be 1 bedroom, and that we can call it the family room. At some point in history, that space was, I think it was the garage, and it was just conditioned to stay, to be inside the home, if that makes sense.
Okay. Are you registered with Airbnb or?
Yes, sir, we have an account.
You have an account with them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do. Hi. Over here.
Oh,
A quick question for you. How long have you owned this home in Douglas County?
We've been here for 6 months.
And you moved here to Douglas County purchasing the home, and then within 6 months of purchasing it, you felt, oh, well, I'm going to rent it out? Or did you purchase the home with the scene opportunity to do that?
When we purchased the home, we just wanted to be the both of us. We were looking for homes, and after a while, well, right now it's just me and my wife, and it's a big house just for 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided, well, we can give it a try to do that. Like, we don't need the whole side of the house.
Mm.
And guests can have their independent entrance, so we noticed that we could have still a home just for both of us and still share it with other people.
I see. And do you own any more properties within Douglas County or any other county?
I don't.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it to the Board of Commissioners for questions you folks may have.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions, Board of Commissioners?
They answered all mine, so.
No questions? Okay, I yield the floor back to.
Thank you very much. You can have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion. Do I have a motion on S 2026-20?
This is Frank Payne. I have a motion to approve S 2026-20, request for a special use permit to allow a short-term rental located at 3357 Saddleton Way, Douglasville.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Or Curry, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving S 2026-20, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chairman, S 2026-20 comes to the board with a unanimous recommendation for approval.
All right, thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item S 2026-20 in the form of a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board? We have a, any discussion? Okay. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote for approval, and the motion passes. I yield the floor back to you,
Thank
Chairman
you very
Simmons.
much, Madam Chairman. Best of luck to you, Mr. Gomez. Next agenda item, please.
All right, we have S 2026-21. This is a special use permit request. This is for a convenience store without gas pumps. So this is located on Maxim Road. The property site is 2.22 acres. It is in Commission District Number 2. The building is in a neighborhood shopping center that was built in 1989. It's been occupied by several different commercial businesses over the years. There's 4 leasable spaces that are broken out into that building, and so the applicant is only requesting to go into one of the leasable spaces. The overall square footage is about 9,000 square feet for this property. So again, they are proposing a convenience store within the existing commercial tenant space. There will not be any fuel pumps associated with this request. We looked at the relevant code sections. We don't have any particular outstanding concerns for a convenience store to occupy this location. We reviewed the impact statements provided by the various departments, and there was nothing in any of those impact statements that gave us pause. So when we analyzed the criteria in the code, we did find the request to be compatible. So what we have in front of you now is the zoning map showing the existing building. Again, was constructed around 1989. And then here's an aerial view of the property. And so staff is recommending approval of the special use permit with the following findings. First, that it will not modify the intent, spirit, or purpose of the Unified Development Code or Comprehensive Plan. And then second, the special use permit would not adversely impact public health, safety, or welfare. We are not recommending any conditions of approval with this. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, at this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone, including the applicant's representative, that'd like to speak in favor, please approach the podium.
Yes,
State
my
your
name
name
is-
and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. My name is Makan Singh. I'm trying to the open convenience store right there to have a couple of customers. They move to in Marietta, then I move in Douglas. Try to open the convenience store right there. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Address is 177 Maxim Road, Douglasville.
Okay, thank you very much. If you don't go too far away, I'm sure we'll have a question or two. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing no one moving, I'll close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? If you would approach the podium. State your name and address for the record in 2 minutes, sir.
My name
is Furman Smith. I have represented the family that operates a convenience store at the corner of Old Alabama Road and Maxim Road for over 20 years. I'm wanted to point out a few deficiencies in the application. One is that it's clear that the owner of the property is an LLC, as shown by both the tax record and the deed records. However, the application was not signed by the owner in a corporate capacity, apparently signed by a member of the LLC, but not the LLC as such. Also, the notices, legal notice given identifies the property by two addresses, 177 Maxim Road and 181 Maxim Road. It also identifies the property as being covered by the change as being 2.2 acres. But it appears that the intent is that only one of the store areas is to be converted to a convenience store, not the entire 6-unit shopping center. Finally, I'm looking at the development code. I'd calculate that the number of parking spaces required for that building, it's a 6-unit building.
Okay. Your 2 minutes is up.
One
Thank you,
second.
sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Name and address for the record in 2 minutes.
2578 Davis Circle, Austell, Georgia.
Name?
Fred Sivani.
Okay, thank you.
And the store which will now own it is 131 Maxim Road. And that, what he asking for zoning is right next to that. It's kind of a small strip. And about 5, maybe more than that, is shop over there. And try to say about the convenience store. And the only parking over there is might be 12 or 13. And what can be, convenience store can be open over there, even without the gas pump. It's gonna need more than that shopping for the parking. Most of the time, what's gonna happen, they are gonna park in my parking lot, right next to that. And it's gonna take it away my parking. And the plus traffic is so congested over there and going in there, and it's gonna make it more worse for the traffic too, you know. So I'm just saying that one, first he didn't have a parking, enough to have a convenience store. Only shopping strip have a 12 or 14 between that to parking. How he can be store open to be, you have permission to convenience store there. And traffic is so already bad enough over there to turning left. It's gonna make it more worse. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Name and address for the record in 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is John. Yes, sir. I'm talking, I don't know what he said it, but I don't think so there is like anybody's, if somebody's coming in my parking lot as a convenience store, people like mostly come, they just buy their stuff and they leave. They don't park for like 5 to 10 minutes or 20 minutes. So I don't know why he said it that.
Oh, you're
they're
speaking
gonna-
in opposition now?
No, you're talking in favor of.
Oh, you,
Yeah, speaking in favor is closed.
okay, no, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Again, name and address for the record.
2280 Pine Drive, Douglasville, Georgia. My name is Melody Wilcox Pratt. I'll keep this short and sweet. So I'm going to talk about Douglas County statistics, and I want you to keep in mind that these don't include parts of Lithia Springs, Villa Rica, or Mableton, because for some reason many stats don't recognize that they are actually part of Douglas County. So that means there's actually more than the numbers I've given you. Very simply, Douglas County has approximately 1 fuel stop and convenience store per every square mile. How many more could we possibly need? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing no one moving, I'll close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions?
I do. Can I have the applicant come up, please? Hi.
Hi.
So I just have a quick question. And so in regard to knowing that there's other convenience stores within a very, very close proximity of what you are proposing to have, can you tell me something unique that you're going to provide inside of your requested convenience store that the gentleman behind you may not propose to have?
Okay, I'm trying to searching on the area. The price too high, you know. The couple of my customers, they move in this area, already running one convenience store like 14 J in Marietta, and then offer me to coming to open the store close to their house. That's why I'm coming move back here.
So you're not necessarily offering Douglas County residents anything unique.
Yeah.
You're just basically coming because people are saying his prices are too high.
Yeah.
So you want to come and have a convenience store with your prices lower.
Yeah.
To receive that.
Yes, ma'am.
That benefit.
Yeah.
I understand. Thank you so much.
Now, I have a question. If I'm not familiar with that area, I am familiar with that area, and you've got a Shell station and I think a Marathon or a Chevron almost directly across the street, right? So why do we need another convenience store?
We tried to the customer offer me to open the convenience store right there. That's why I'm coming to close to there.
Okay, nothing unique.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes,
Planning
I
and
have a
Zoning?
question. Are you presently open? Because I've passed by there and it has an open sign over that
It's not open yet.
location. It's not open?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to Board of Commissioners for your questions and comments.
Okay. You have any questions, Board of Commissioners? Commissioner Kenneth Jones?
Are you going to be offering just traditional style convenience store food like potato chips and, quick things, hot dogs, that kind of?
So no food is only have like for a soft drink, like something like that, and only like chips, no nothing, anything, like some kind of good cigarette in there, that's it.
But, so no healthy foods or anything, like no
No.
fresh fruits, vegetables, nothing like that?
No.
Madam Chair, I yield back.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Board? All right, I yield the floor back to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. If you just have a seat, sir. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion. Do I have a motion on S 2026-21?
Or Curry, I make a motion to deny S 2026-21, a request for special use permit to allow a convenience store without pumps located at 1881 or 1770 Maxim Road, Lithia Springs.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion to deny S 2026-21, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chair, S 2026-21 comes to you with a unanimous recommendation for denial.
Okay, thank you. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to deny agenda item S 2026-21.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Board? We have a-
I do have a comment
Okay.
to make.
Mhm.
It's not that we are opposed to convenience stores, but they are over their use in Douglas County. And I know when it says that we're looking at adverse impacts to public health, that they're talking about nuisance, noise, things like that. But we also need to shift that definition to include what does your overall public health and well-being look like. We already have a diabetes epidemic in Douglas County. We have fetal mortality issues in Douglas County. We have obesity issues in Douglas County. We are rated a D, actually it's a D- by the March of Dimes right now, and a lot of that is driven by improper access to healthy and appropriate foods for families. So we can't keep approving convenience stores that are not bringing anything that's going to help raise the public health and welfare of our community. And so I just can't be in favor of this item. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Kenneth Jones. Any other discussion?
Just one.
Okay, Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Just to piggyback off of Commissioner Kenneth Jones's, I mean, we anticipate and we want our small businesses to grow, and to oversaturate with gas stations, one gas station on one side of the road, one on the other side of the road, here's another convenience store. The county, and I believe, I'm not going to speak for all my fellow commissioners, but we want to see something different. Not the same product on the same, right across the street from car washes, gas stations. We could go on for quite a while, but, you know, just looking for something different. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of denial, please indicate by raising your right hand. All right, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote to deny, and the motion carries for denial. So I yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Next agenda item, please.
Agenda item S 2026-24. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow a short-term rental at 5992 Fielder Way. The lot is approximately half an acre in Commission District 3. There is an existing 2,073 square foot single-family detached home that was constructed in 2018 in the Crowley Wood subdivision. The applicant proposes to use the property as a short-term rental. Here's the relevant code section. The use must not alter the principal character of the property as a single-family residence. Here are the special use criteria analysis. Here's a zoning map. Here's a site aerial. Staff is recommending approval based on the following findings. The proposed special use permit will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the comprehensive plan. The proposed special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium, including the applicant or the applicant's representative. If you'd state your name and address for the record, and then 2 minutes.
Yes, Tracy Gazzola, and it's 5992 Fielder Way, Douglasville, Georgia, 30135. And I'm just asking for a special rental permit to do an Airbnb out of a room in my house. So I'm a single person, and my kids are off to college, and I'm very nervous right now because I'm not used to talking in front of people. But I would like to rent out a room, and I've already applied for an Airbnb.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. If you would stand by, I'm sure we might have a question or two.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? No one moving. I'll close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Again, no one moving. I'll close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the applicant or of staff?
Or could I have a question of the applicant?
If you'd come back to the podium.
Yes, sir.
Question is your property in the HOA community?
It is not.
Okay. Have you talked to the neighbors to the left, right, and front about you possibly having a Airbnb, as you said you proposed to have?
Yes, they were all in favor.
Okay, I also noticed that you do have a pool, right?
I do. So
when you're having your Airbnb, will you be there or will you be like gone for a certain time while
No, I will be living, I live there and I'll be living on the property, and they will not be allowed to use the pool if I'm not home.
Okay, so they won't be able to use the pool when you're not there?
Correct.
Okay, parking. Well, how many people
I have like a 5-car driveway.
Okay, so parking
There's
should be good.
adequate parking, yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, I do. Hi.
Hi.
How long have you resided here in Douglas County?
Goodness, about 30-something years.
In this home that you're proposing to?
8 years. It was a new development.
Okay,
I built a new house.
perfect. Thank you. No further questions.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes. Do you have separate utilities, bathrooms?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about.
It's a 4-bedroom house, and I built out the room above the garage as well, so it made it a 4-bedroom. It's actually a 2,400 square foot house, and it has its own, so on one side of the property, it has 2 rooms that are 12 by 12 with a Jack and Jill bathroom. And I'm on the other side of the house, so they have their own bathroom, and
What about kitchen?
it's shared.
It's shared?
Uh-huh.
You don't have any problems with that?
I do not. I do not. I like people, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it to the Board of Commissioners for questions you folks may have.
Okay, thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, any question? Commissioner Raxton, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So just wanted to go back in regards to parking, and I know that street is a pretty narrow street there, so would there be no off or on-street parking allowed? Is that my understanding, or?
Yeah, there will not be. There's plenty of room in my driveway for parking.
Okay, 'cause I'm concerned just for emergency vehicles and just for traffic flow. I know that's a pretty narrow street
It
there.
is a little narrow.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay. And then how many renters per, I guess per stay are you looking to have, or those that
Just
would be
one
there?
or two, you know, I think mostly just one. I'm looking for like travel techs or business people that are passing through Douglas County for business purposes.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you. All right, you discussed in regards that you will be there as owner occupied, and you're gonna be there, this is your primary place of residence, so that won't be an issue there.
That is correct.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Any other questions, Board? All right, I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Madam
Chairman
Chairman.
Simmons.
You can have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion. Do I have a motion on S 2026-24?
This is Melissa Polk. I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item S 2026-24, a request for a special use permit to allow short-term rental located at 5992 Fielder Way, Douglasville 30135.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving S 2026-24, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous, Madam Chair. S 2026-24 comes to the board with unanimous recommendation for approval.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve S 2026-24 for a special land use permit.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion, Board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote, and the motion carries with no opposition. And I yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I believe we have one more agenda item.
We do. Let me please adjust the slide deck for a moment. Oop, let me get back. All right. Next item on the agenda, this is going to be a show cause hearing for the property at 3061 Bowden Street. This is S 2026-26. So a show cause hearing, as you are familiar, is the opportunity for the applicant to come back in front of the board and show cause as to why they can or cannot comply with certain approved conditions on the property. So this is 3061 Bowden Street. The original approval was to allow auto repair, including paint, body work, things like that, in the heavy commercial zoning district. It's a little under ½ acre, and this is in Commission District Number 1. So this first came to you in 2022 for approval, At that time, the applicant, which is not the person that you're going to hear from tonight, but the applicant in 2022 commenced the business without making the required improvements per the conditions that you approved. So as you know, planning and zoning goes out and we check around the 1 year mark to see if a property is in compliance. It was determined that this one was not. We worked with the applicant trying to bring them into compliance. And then finally, we just sort of said, hey, it's going to be time for you to come back and do a show cause hearing, right? And so that would have been, I want to say 2024. Came back, he said to y'all at the time that he came back for the show cause hearing, oh, I'm good. I'm going to get the property into compliance, and then subsequently sold the property to the new owner, who you will hear from this evening. So we have been working with the new owners to come into compliance, and then once it was determined by our director that the property was not in compliance and all attempts to achieve compliance had been exhausted, we decided that we needed to bring this back before the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Commissioners to determine if there is a path of relief from some of the conditions. So again, as approved in S 2022-48 and reconfirmed in the first show cause hearing on the property, the board wanted several conditions involving where the septic is located. So we wanted to make sure that cars were not parked on top of the septic area on the property. There was some required driveway and sidewalk improvements. There's some required fence installation around the perimeter of the property that you had asked for. And then there was also, subsequent to that time, an accessory building that was located on the property. It did not have a permit at the time, and it is in violation of setbacks on the property. So when we took a look at the code, again, these are the relevant code sections. Again, Table 2.2 does require automotive repair to have a special use permit in the CH zoning district. And then under Article 12, Section 1210, any applicant may come back to the Board of Commissioners to change any conditions of zoning approval. But as a reminder, a special use permit and any conditions thereon, that is a zoning action, right? So the staff can't necessarily unilaterally waive the things that the board has put in place. So that's why we are here again tonight, to see if the applicant can show cause in terms of why they were not able to comply with the conditions. So those were the previous hearings. And then what brings us back today is that we received a complaint by code enforcement that there were paint fumes that were venting towards an adjacent residential property. And so that was when we came back out, we looked, determined the property was still not in compliance, and taken the steps here tonight. So now again, the staff's recommendation is still that this special use permit should be allowed on the property if the appropriate conditions are put in place and complied with. You can see the property highlighted in the blue outline there. That is the subject property under consideration. Oops, went too fast. There's the aerial view of the property. You can see kind of between the two white roofs, the space where there was a new building that was located on the property. So again, if the special use permit is reaffirmed with conditions, we would recommend the following findings. First, that the use will not modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. And second, the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan future land use category as being within the mixed use corridor and incorporating a mix of commercial and residential uses. We also think that the granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare. But the conditions that we are recommending, and once again, bear with us, as you know, we have to read all of these into the record. The first several conditions are the ones that were original with the 2022 approval. So first of all, additional site improvements for paved parking or driveways and for construction of accessory facilities will require review and authorization prior to the installation by the Development Review Committee. The applicant will coordinate with the DC-DOT for access points on alterations and other issues along Bowden Street. So that was the first condition from 2022 that has not been complied with. Now again, these current applicants have come to DRC several times. I'm going to lean heavily on Travis and Bruce if you have questions about that process, because they have been working with them to try to achieve an outcome for compliance. The second condition is that parking for vehicles awaiting or having just completed repairs or servicing must be entirely screened from view for any adjacent property by a solid masonry wall, imitation wood vinyl fence, or polymer composite-based material, opaque fence at least 8 feet tall. No on-street parking along the public right-of-way shall be permitted. So there have been instances out there where we have seen on-street parking. That's something that code enforcement can handle. The fencing issue is one that we probably still want to address. There is fencing around the entire perimeter of the property. It is not compliant with the conditions that were originally put in place for condition number 2. The third condition is that the site shall be developed in such a manner so as to maintain a safe vehicle-free area over the septic tank and field line serving the premises. Again, environmental health did go out to the property initially, make an inspection, determine that the septic tank is functional, but since that time, we have not seen the area to be partitioned off so that vehicles cannot travel across that septic field. Number 4, no vehicle dismantling or scrap parts recovery activity shall be permitted, and no inoperable junk vehicles shall be stored on the property at any time. Number 5, vehicles that are under repair or maintenance and in a closed automotive repair shop may not remain on the property for more than 180 consecutive days. And so then number 6, this is where we get into some of the new conditions that we're recommending. Accessory structures placed on the property shall apply for a building permit, and any variances needed to accommodate the placement of the structure. Should permits or variances not be obtained, the structure must be removed. And again, Travis has been working more consistently with the applicant on this, and he can provide you any updates from the building department. I do think they have been working with our chief building official to see if there is a path for compliance, but I don't think we have obtained compliance yet. Number 7, no portion of the facility shall vent towards a property used for residential occupancy. Number 8, the property shall be fully compliant with these conditions and all other applicable regulations within 6 months of this approval. Upon a finding of good faith progress, the director may extend the approval for an additional 6 months. So again, this has been going on since 2022. We are hoping this is the last time we have to bring this property to you, and that we can find a path forward for compliance with the conditions. The applicant is most likely going to ask for some relief from some of these conditions, but whatever the decision is of this hearing tonight, we're trying to give some very specific timelines by which we will see improvement on this. And then number 9, the approval shall be valid for 12 months unless an extension is otherwise approved by the Board of Commissioners. So if they are continuing to make good progress, we want to see that move forward, but regardless of that, they're going to have to come back to the Board of Commissioners 1 year to have their approval extended, to check in at that time. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all will have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to actually speak in favor of this, the applicant or the applicant's representative, please approach the podium. This is a little bit unusual since it's a show cause rather than a straight recommendation. If you'd state your name and address for the record, sir.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Aaron Jackson, and I'm the owner of 3061 Bowden Street. And I would like to say first, thank you, Ms. Duncan. They have been very helpful with this situation. Thank you for allowing me to come and talk to you guys to, try to ease this situation. Second, I am aware of everything that's going on now, and we have been working diligently to handle a lot of it. So I'm open for any questions or, whatever needs to be asked so that we could make it happen expeditiously, because I like the area. I live in this area as well, and I want to be here. I want to stay here. So my business is thriving, so I like to do what's needed to stay.
Okay, if you'd like to take a seat.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak towards this application in favor? Again, this is a little unusual since it's a show cause hearing, but.
Hi, my name is Sade Shelton, 3061 Bowden Street, Lithia Springs, Georgia. I am Mr. Jackson's assistant, and I too would like to speak in favor of this application. As he stated, we have been working very diligently with Ms. Duncan, Bruce, and Travis, and Chris as well to bring the property up to compliance. We have had a little bit of kickback with dealing with some of the civil engineers as well, but we have everything that we need today to move forward with the site plans as needed.
Okay, so you're comfortable with the conditions that have been proposed, and you'll be able to satisfy those within 6 months or within a year if you get a 6 months extension?
We're looking at more the year timeline, but yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak about this? No one? No. We can close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this matter? Are you coming to speak in opposition, sir? No. Okay. All right. No problem. Seeing no one moving, then I'll close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the applicant or staff?
The applicant.
If you come back,
So, I know you say you've been working, what type of business are you opening there?
Paint and body.
Paint and body?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, have you received any complaints from your neighbors or anything?
Not one.
Okay, all right, okay. I have no other questions. I need the staff. Yep.
Can
What
I
you got?
speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, and speaking on the fence, they're requiring it to be 8 and it's 6, and we were waiting to come here to ask would the 6 be feasible versus the 8, because you can't see, the reason for the 8 is for driving by traffic to not be able to see into the business visibly, and you can't with the 6-foot fence now. So that was one thing that we were gonna ask, but if not, if it needs to be 8, then we can make it 8, but. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I thought 6-foot fence was code.
Well, for residential, it is 6-foot
Okay.
fence. So this isn't a commercial zoning district. Mr. Jackson's correct. I think the intent, now again, this was Phil Schaefer's case back in the day. But I think the intent behind the 8-foot fence was to make sure that it kind of clearly screened everything. I'd also say in 2022, and I look back at my old staff report from that time and looked at the pictures, there was a bit of a inconsistent fencing around the perimeter of the property. So I think that staff would be amenable to changing the condition to allow a 6-foot fence that is maintained in a state of good repair. It has been our observation that even though the fence is not consistent, in terms of form and type all around the entire periphery of the property, it does basically achieve the intent of the code. So when I say it's not consistent, it's not, all pieces are not the same material, I guess, is what I would say. It's evolved over time. But as long as it's maintained in a state of good repair, we are content to allow the existing fencing on the property to be maintained.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes,
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I know this has been a long-going process with you, just trying to figure out what's all that's going on with this right here and trying to, now, they said they've been working with you. Could you kind of explain some of the things that they are working with you, trying to resolve based on this applicant?
Yeah, so we've met with them a number of times. I think that early in the process, they maybe didn't fully understand the requirements that we were giving them. And so as we've visited and said, you're still not doing what we're asking for, they've come back and said, for clarification on what we're asking for. They have made some good improvements to the property. If looking back to what the property looked like in 2022 or whenever this started, it does look much better today. So we've been trying to work with them when they are improving the property to make sure that they're headed in the direction that we're wanting them to go in, instead of just kind of doing their own thing.
So do you see that with the process that's going on, because it's been going on for a long time, so, and we're back again.
Right.
So do you think, based on the process you're seeing right now, that they're going to be able to meet that 12-month requirement, that the stipulation of conditions that we're adding into this?
I'm confident that they understand what we're looking for much better than they did earlier in the process. So that makes me hopeful that as long as they can work with an engineer that also understands what we're looking for and that sort of thing, that we can get where it needs to be within that 6 to 12-month period.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
I have a question, sir, if you'd like to stay. In regard to some of the requirements versus like the driveway and the sidewalk improvement and things of that nature, can you expound on what those requirements are? And then so my next question to the applicant can be applied.
Okay. So as far as the sidewalk requirement, it's a requirement anytime someone's coming to do development in Douglas County. That you've heard Bruce mention it, and I'm kind of speaking for him, but he can correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody that develops in Douglas County is going to have a requirement to add sidewalks along the frontage of their property. There's an Enterprise rent-a-car that's right down the street that within a year or so ago, they had to put in sidewalk. there's a good amount of foot traffic in that area in general, so we feel like sidewalks are something that would benefit that area. So they are required to add sidewalks, and it's a good bit of frontage because they're on a corner lot. We also have been working with them on making sure that their driveways in a safe condition. I think that the interior of the property is gravel, but we're going to need some pavement. We don't want the gravel washing into the road, so we're going to need the driveway, at least, inside the right-of-way, to be paved. And they need to get a civil engineer to kind of produce some plans that, show how all that's going to be done.
Understand. Okay, thank you. I have no further questions for yourself.
Okay. Did you have questions for me? Okay.
I have a question to the applicant.
I do as well. Questions for the applicant? So I know that you'd stated that, you're working diligently, right, with, and you being the new owner. My first question is what is the time frame between you acquiring the property and being informed of these delinquencies, if you will, or out of compliance to, when the repairs started happening to today's date?
Okay, so I acquired the property back at the end of 2024. So we basically started really working on this at the top of 2025. And so I have a lot of the civil, the paperwork with the civil engineers and all of that. And there's a lot of issues with how things can be done and can't be done. And that's why he's saying we had a lot of trips back and forth, because I've been having engineers come out and say one thing, and what's required from you guys wasn't lined up with what they were saying. Just like right now, I have the paperwork here. The civil engineer said there's fiber going across. So he said a sidewalk can't go there because there's fiber directly, exactly where the sidewalk is wanted, there's fiber optic wire going across that same way. So we had Douglas County come out just the other days and retransition one of the runoffs. So we've done that. The opposite fencing that she was talking about, I just redid a whole new fence around. The gravel that he was speaking on, we had to wait until the septic tank was cleaned and done because they had to dig. It didn't have a top. So I just replaced 3 septic tank tops, replaced the whole line. I mean, it's been one thing and another thing and another thing. So, I mean, and like I said, I haven't even been there a year and a half yet, actually. And we have a lot of pictures to show, just like they say, the reflection from then to now is night and day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the other improvements is regarding to ventilation and, in regard to the paint fumes. While that can be an environmental and also a health hazard, right? So what are your plans? And I know that you had stated that you did not know of any of those complaints, but being knowledgeable of them now, do you have intentions of, how do you know that you can correct that in regard to it going in a residential direction?
Correct. So our paint fumes actually go up and out the roof. And all of our neighbors, even the residential and commercial, we all communicate with them. We know each other. I mean, I do work for a lot of them. I've never heard of it. The day that it happened and code enforcement came, it was a shock to us. And we've been literally waiting to get here to see what was going on. And as you can see, no one's here. So I don't know what happened with that. But we haven't had that complaint. We haven't had an issue with that. I mean,
okay.
That would have, not to cut you off, I just feel like that would have really been a big deal if paint fumes was just flying around in the air over there. So we've been there almost 2 years now. So.
May I switch to staff in regard to that particular topic? In regard to the fumes, and so a complaint would just be someone who's within the vicinity of it, that's in a residential area, if I'm correct on that. And then 2, the second part of my question is that is the ventilation of a paint, is that somewhat of a code type thing in regard to the usage of the land in its purpose? Can you help me with that?
Sure. So in regard to the specific complaint, I don't actually have the record of when it came in to code enforcement. If that's something that you would need us to provide, we can certainly, provide what they have. As Mr. Jackson said, I had turned this over to code enforcement for not being compliant with its conditions, and then it kind of got up to the top of the radar again when there was the complaint received about the paint fumes. So I don't know much more about it than that. If there was an impact statement from code enforcement, we would have provided it in the staff report. Otherwise, all of of that is public record, so we can share that if you would like to know specifically more about the nature of that. And so since that time, you know, as we said, they were working mostly with our director, and again, Travis is our deputy director, to sort out what is the path forward. Don't let me forget to answer the second part of your question, but I do want to say, part of the reason there's a show cause hearing tonight is for the lack of compliance. Once they receive the citations, if it's not in compliance, the next step is to go to summons, right? And so that's going through the judicial system. We don't necessarily feel that this is at that point yet, right? Because they have been making good progress, you know, in working with us to try to come into compliance. So again, we just have to pursue the remedy that we have under our code, and this is kind of a stopgap before we put this property in front of a judge. So it's our hope tonight that we can figure out a way to give them more time to keep working on some of these compliance issues. But that is why we're here tonight, as opposed to taking that next step to go straight to summons. Now, remind me of the second part of your question.
So my second part of the question is that in regard to usage of the land and its purpose, meaning for the painting, the ventilation, is there something written in stating for that purpose intent in regard to ventilation?
Sure. So again, all of that is going to go under the building code requirements. I do think that any time changes are made to a commercial property, they are really supposed to be going and pulling their building permits, right? And so whether or not the property, when it was done in 2022, whether or not they were using the property for painting at that time, when I look back at the minutes, you know, the previous applicant had said that they were getting away from painting, they were going into car wraps. I'm clearly speaking beyond my level of technical expertise, right? But that being said, you know, it wasn't until we got this complaint that we had any real inclination of, you know, what was going on in terms of the property and how they were using it. Under our code, it was just automotive repair, and then they had certain conditions they need to comply with. So one of the things that we did put in there in regard to the accessory structure needing the building permit, right, that would get our chief building official out there on the property to look at all improvements that have been made, and if there's anything that needs to come into compliance at that time, we could address it. Similarly, I anticipate that this property is going to be back in front of the Planning and Zoning Board for variances, right, to obtain any variances for the new structure that has been moved onto the property. But big picture, our ask is to just give them a little bit more time, you know, because we've sort of exhausted all of our steps now that we have short of going into the judicial system for remedy. So we just want to put it back in front of the Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners to see if you will give us more time to continue to work with them. And then also if there's anything that needs to be tweaked about those original conditions, we're happy to do that. So Does that answer your question?
It does. And then we're just kind of wanted to kind of put in also in regard to the new building that has been placed on the property that was placed not appropriately, meaning with permits and permissional things. In regard to that building currently now as it stands, what is the recommendation or the requirement for that building? Is it that it needs to be removed, or, you know, what are we talking?
I'll defer to Deputy McDonald to answer that question.
So I think the recommendation right now is to let our building department, our chief building official, go out there and do an inspection. Let him put eyes on it and see if he feels that it's in good condition, that if it was moved to the property, it was apparently, you know, a full building somewhere else. If it seems like it's up to code, then I think that we'll be okay with it. If it needs some variances, then we'll go through that process. But I think the inspections are just what's needed, and then do an assessment and make recommendations after that.
Okay, and forgive my ignorance, inspection would be looking at the ventilation, looking at the building that has been put newly on the property. Those inspections is what we're talking about, correct?
Yes, and it'll be for HVAC systems, electrical, structural, all the various trades.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have a question
Planning and
for DOT. The applicant brought up about the fiber and the sidewalk. Are y'all aware of that? I know that was something that he brought up in his statement.
Not directly. Typically what happens when we get to DRC with a detailed set of plans, then it will define whatever utilities are within the property limits. There may be fiber that's in the area, but it's at a proper depth, then it doesn't come into play. Or if it's at a depth that's shallow enough, then it's relocated, but it's relocated as part of the improvements to the development itself.
Okay.
It's not a, if you have fiber, you can't build sidewalk.
Okay, that's the only question I have, unless somebody else have a question, that was it.
Yeah, I was concerned about fiber being shallow enough to interfere with sidewalk construction. Usually it's deeper than that.
Yeah, typically, fiber is 2.5 to 3 feet deep
Yeah,
on
and
a
inside of a
general
conduit.
average. Mhm.
Yeah, inside of a conduit.
So if the fiber followed the proper protocol, then it should be at a proper depth.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you very much. The applicant, please. Yeah, I understand. You bought this property. This was ongoing when you bought the property, and you weren't brought up to speed on the requirements. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, now you've gotten into it. You're working on it. You've got plans. You think you can get this done within the 6 months to a year
Yes, sir.
and make good progress on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you want to say anything else?
Yes, far as the building that's on the property, we actually had them already come out and certify it, but Donna, the lady that was in the office, went out for sick like right after that, and we never got the actual permit. So then it just got on hold until we did this. So everything was actually in the works and all the steps were followed.
Okay.
The main thing was this engineering, because it's like a $40,000 project, so.
Okay, now the conditions that they've recommended, you're in agreement with those conditions with the exception of condition number 2, the height of the fence?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right. If
Yes,
you'd
sir.
have a seat.
All right.
Planning and Zoning Board, do you have anything else? Okay. Madam Chairman, throw it over Board of Commissioners for questions you folks may have.
All right. Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Any questions, Board of Commissioners? Commissioner Mitchell, you have the floor.
To the Mr. Jackson.
Yes, sir.
So okay, I think this probably have already been asked once or twice, but I'm assuming you say you've had the property for about 1.5 years.
Correct.
When you actually purchased the property, wasn't aware of all these things that are...
No, because there was a lot of other things wrong as well. So we kind of started there, and then once this was brought up to our attention, because we were actually trying to go and get a business license, and they were like, no, it's other things you need to do, and then that's when it started to, we had to work towards that.
So you've been actually just operating with just doing your job, and my next question is kind of, what is it that you do? But you've just been operating under the assumption that planning and zoning and others are trying to get the property in compliance.
Correct. They've been helping me to get it in compliance, correct.
Got it. And what is it that you do? You paint cars, or you?
Correct.
Okay.
Paint cars.
Okay. Now, and this may be a question for planning and zoning, and they may tell you, but do you know that there's probably some type of ventilation system that goes within the building because I don't think you can just let the fumes come out.
No, I have it. I have a real paint booth. We have a $50,000 paint booth in there, and it has a ventilation system that goes up out of the roof.
Right, but just in the exposed air, or
That's how
contained, or shouldn't it be contained or something? Or
no, that's how it.
That's how it works. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. I got the.
It's okay. That's
Yeah.
what I'm here for. That's what y'all here for. We're
thought
figuring
you
it out.
The fumes some kind of way to kind of do what you do though, but it just kind of evaporate in the air and you just kind of keep.
Yeah, it goes up approximately like 40 feet in the air, and that's from approximately 30 feet from the top of the paint booth
Okay.
up out of the ceiling.
Okay.
So it goes up high enough to when it actually comes out, it's not coming back down, it's going on up.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
No, it does.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I guess this would probably be more for Allison. And I appreciate you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you need more time and your willingness as staff to work with Mr. Jackson to try to get him in compliance. And you're asking us as a board to give you that time to work with him because you think you're getting somewhere.
Yeah, so again, I'm going to lean on what Travis had said, is that now we think they understand the requirements. So y'all see a lot of me, right? But to be honest with you, once you're done with me, it falls on these guys over here
Right.
in DRC to take care of it. We do our inspection at 1 year, we see if it's in compliance. If it's not into compliance, we try to figure out a path forward. That's not working out, we turn it over to code enforcement. So most of the work has been done by Travis and Bruce and DRC in regard to kind of next steps for this. And so if they're telling me that they think that there's a path forward, then that's why I'm standing in front of you, telling you that there's a path forward. In terms of a lot of the technical things that you've asked today, that's solidly the building department, the engineering department, all of those folks that are not planning and zoning. So I'm gonna lean on them, and if Travis says he feels like they understand the requirements and that there is a path forward to come into compliance for 12 months, then my recommendation is gonna be that we give them the time to see if they can sort it out.
Okay, Mr. Travis, Travis, come on up. You know, I got to hear it, from the experts. I'm learning this stuff. So, from where you are in all of this, you think there is a potential path forward in getting this piece of land and this situation in compliance so we can kind of move forward with his business, Mr. Jackson's business?
Yes, based off of the improvements that they've made to the property, it does look a lot better than it did a year and a half ago. And as long as they continue that forward progress, I'm hopeful that we can be fully in compliance within that 6 to 12-month period.
Right. And you're thinking within 12 months, we could be there, we could get there?
That's largely up to them, but yes,
6 to 12 months, I think I heard.
Yes, I'm hopeful.
I was feeling a little bit good here, but now you got me nervous. So, but again, understood, and I get it, because my first notion about when I heard about this was that it needs to be in compliance first before I can even consider it. But I'm really leaning on staff on this to say, how do we do this when they're out of compliance? That is pretty tough for me. I can't speak for my colleagues to try and move forward, but I'm hearing you guys saying maybe there is a path forward based on all that you've been doing with Mr. Jackson and as to where he came from as to where he is today.
Right. Yeah. We have done, or things have been done in the reverse of the way that we would prefer that they be done. As far as being in business and while trying to get into compliance, usually you get into compliance,
Correct.
And then you go into business.
Right.
That being said, I feel like we should consider what they have put into the property and their willingness to meet the conditions that we're putting on them. And I feel like my recommendation is to give them that 6 to 12 month period.
Okay, all right. They speaking good stuff for you there. I mean, I believe you. I believe you. Okay, thank you, Travis. I yield back, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Any other questions, board? All right. I'll yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. We've heard the discussion and the information on this, and I'd like to take the privilege of making a motion. Make a motion on S 2022-48 to approve the findings and conditions that were read into the record, with the exception of condition number 2 being a 6-foot fence instead of an 8-foot fence.
Frank Payne, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
I have discussion. What I want to say is, we're working with you, and thank you. No, you can just say, we're working with you, and we want business to come into Douglas County that's going to, entrepreneurship. One thing that we talk about that is very important, and we know that you were given something and you're trying to make it, even though you started out wrong, you're trying to get it back in good standing. So thank you, and we're here to work with you.
Thank you all.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All of those in favor of approving the findings and conditions on S 2022-48, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chairman, S 2022-48 comes to you with a unanimous recommendation to approve the findings and conditions read into the record, with the exception of condition number 2 being a 6-foot fence.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item S2022-48 with the said conditions and findings and the reinstatement of item number 2, condition number 2, from a 6-foot to an 8-foot fencing as stated by planning.
It's
and
the
8
other
to
way.
6, the other way, yeah, the other way. That way, yes. And as stated by planning and zoning, so. And I put that in the form of a motion to approval. And, well, I'll wait to you.
Second.
Okay, second.
But
We
then
have a motion in the, okay.
But I'd like to comment after.
Oh, okay, okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion?
Yes, so, but I do want to say though, but my first notion was to not move forward with this, more because of, I'd rather see it in compliance. And Allison and I had a long conversation today about, we need to get this first done and then come back. So, but with Travis and others kind of feeling confident that they're moving in the right direction, I'm confident that based on their statements, that we can kind of get there. I think this is going to be really costly, but I'm hoping that it's worthy enough for you to get there. But I'm looking forward to seeing the success of not only your business, but you kind of getting into in compliance, that we can kind of move forward and be in compliance with what you do. So thank you again, and thank you for the education piece of kind of where the fumes go. So thank you again. I yield back, and that's my comments.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair, you have the floor. Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell.
Mr. Jackson, keep flipping that exhaust switch, or we were not going to see you in 12 months. So make sure you keep turning that thing on. I yield back, Madam Chair.
That's why we was like, okay, any other questions, board? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Commissioner Mitchell? I did. Oh, you did, okay. Looked like you did a high. Okay, we have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries with no opposition. Thank you, and yes.
Thank you very much. Best of luck to you, Mr. Jackson. We want you to be successful. We don't want to see you back here.
Yes, you don't want to see us again.
Any other items to come before us? Having no items to come before Planning and Zoning Board, I will declare our Planning and Zoning Board meeting adjourned. Madam Chair.
Board of Commissioners, do we have anything else to come before this body? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Y'all saw.